unyielding Pharaoh, the true story of Moses and the plagues of Egypt. Now that Moses had returned to Egypt alongside his brother Aaron, they were filled with determination. With the hope of the Israelites in their hearts, they set out to face Pharaoh. This would be one of the most important moments in their lives. They knew it wouldn't be easy to convince the king to release hundreds of thousands of Hebrew slaves, but they believed they were following God's mission. Moses and Aaron made their way to the palace, and as they entered, the guards looked at them suspiciously. "Who are these men?" they whispered. But Moses and Aaron kept their heads high, reminding themselves that they were doing God's work. When they finally stood before Pharaoh, who sat on his great throne adorned with jewels glistening in the light, Moses felt a surge of nervousness. Pharaoh looked at them with a raised eyebrow and said, "What do you want?" Moses took a deep breath and, with Aaron beside him, spoke. "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Let my people go, so that they may hold a festival to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh's expression immediately changed. He laughed at their request and replied, "Who is the Lord that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go." With this, he dismissed them, his voice dripping with contempt. Moses and Aaron were shocked. They had expected some resistance, but Pharaoh's refusal was harsh and unexpected. Instead of losing hope, they stood their ground. "The God of the Hebrews has met with us," they insisted. "Let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to our God, or he may strike us with plagues or the sword." Pharaoh, irritated, called for his taskmasters. "Look," he shouted, "the Hebrews are becoming lazy and restless. They have too much time on their hands. Now make the people work harder." He instructed them to stop providing straw for the bricks they were forced to make. They must go and gather straw by themselves, but still make the same number of bricks. Moses and Aaron left the palace defeated. The weight of Pharaoh's words hung heavy in their minds, and their hearts ached for their people. The Hebrews suffered even more now, forced to work harder under increasing oppression. They returned to the Israelites, hoping to bring them some encouragement. When they gathered, however, the people were discouraged and angry. "May the Lord look upon you and judge you," they said to Moses and Aaron. "You have made us a stench to Pharaoh, and his officials have put a sword in their hand to kill us." Their words pierced Moses' heart. He had come to help them, but instead their suffering had intensified, and they blamed him for it. Feeling troubled, Moses turned to God in prayer. "Lord," he cried out, "why have you brought trouble upon these people? Is this why you sent me? Ever since I went to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has brought trouble on this people, and you have not rescued your people at all." He felt overwhelmed and questioned if he was the right person for such a daunting task. God replied with gentle reassurances. "Now, you will see what I will do to Pharaoh. I will bring my people out of Egypt. I am the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but I did not reveal my name, the Lord, to them. I have heard the groaning of the Israelites, whom the Egyptians enslaved, and I remember my covenant with them." Moses listened intently as God reminded him of the promise made to their ancestors. "Therefore say to the Israelites, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the yoke of the Egyptians. I will free you from being slaves to them, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with mighty acts of judgment I will take you as my own people, and I will be your God." With these reassurances, Moses returned to the Israelites, sharing the good news from God. But again, their hearts were heavy, and they couldn't hear his words because of their suffering. Moses, feeling more uncertain than ever, went back to Pharaoh with Aaron. They stood before the mighty king once again, ready to deliver God's message. "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says," Moses declared. "Let my people go so they can hold a festival in my honor in the wilderness." Pharaoh stared at them as if they were foolish. "I do not know the Lord," he replied. "Why should I let the Israelites go?" Instead of being frightened, Moses spoke boldly, saying, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. We must understand that if we ignore his command, we will face serious consequences." Pharaoh remained stubborn and demanded proof. "Perform a miracle," he ordered. He wanted to see a sign that would convince him of the power of the God of Moses and Aaron. They had performed signs before, but Pharaoh had refused to listen. Moses, relying on God's promise, took his staff and threw it on the ground. Just as God had directed, it turned into a snake. Pharaoh summoned his wise men and sorcerers. They also threw their staffs to the ground, and they turned into snakes as well. But Moses' snake swallowed all the other snakes. Despite this incredible miracle, Pharaoh's heart remained hard, and he refused to listen. He turned away, believing that his magicians could outdo the wonders of God. Following God's instruction, Moses returned to Pharaoh after several days. Again, he warned Pharaoh about the consequences of refusing God's command. "If you refuse to let my people go," he said, "there will be severe plagues." Still, Pharaoh laughed and dismissed them once more. Quite frustrated, Moses and Aaron returned to the Israelites and shared what God had told them, how God promised to deliver them. "Trust in him," they said. "He will make a way for us." As time continued, God sent a series of devastating plagues upon Egypt, each representing a sign of his power. The first plague transformed the waters of the Nile River into blood. It happened just as God had said. Moses struck the river with his staff, and all the water turned to blood, causing fish to die and the smell to overwhelm the people. Pharaoh witnessed the miracle, but appeared unfazed. His magicians tried to replicate the miracle, and in doing so, Pharaoh's heart hardened even further. He refused to let the Israelites go, believing that he could withstand whatever God would throw at Egypt. Next came the plague of frogs. The Nile was filled with frogs, which swarmed over the land, invading homes and fields. The frogs were everywhere, causing great distress among the Egyptians. "Ask the Lord to take away the frogs." Pharaoh begged Moses and Aaron, so Moses prayed, and when God removed the frogs from the land, Pharaoh's heart again grew stubborn. He would not let the people go. The following plagues were gnats, flies, and livestock disease. Each one intensified the suffering of the Egyptians while miraculously sparing the Israelites. The land was struck hard, but Pharaoh remained defiant, constantly promising to free the Hebrews, only to change his mind as soon as the crisis was over. After the plague of boils, where painful sores covered the Egyptians and their animals, Pharaoh was still unmoved by the suffering around him. With each plague, God revealed his power, and still the heart of Pharaoh resisted the truth. Then God sent a plague of hail, causing destruction throughout the land. Large hailstones rained down from the sky, ruining crops and livestock. Yet Pharaoh continued to act stubbornly. Even after pleading with Moses to stop the hail, he went back on his word, refusing to release the Israelites. Finally, after the plague of locusts swept through Egypt, devastating any remaining crops, God warned Moses about the worst plague yet. "I will bring about the death of the firstborn in every household," God forewarned, "but the Israelites will be protected through the blood of a lamb." They were to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. God instructed Moses to tell the Israelites to prepare for Passover. He taught them the specific details they needed to follow: how to choose a perfect lamb, cook it, and prepare unleavened bread. This event would mark the beginning of their freedom and would forever be remembered by the Israelites. On that fateful night, everyone gathered in their homes. The Hebrews followed the instructions carefully, painting the doorposts with the lamb's blood. As darkness fell over Egypt, the angel of death passed through the land. Every firstborn in the houses not marked by blood was taken away, and there was great mourning. Pharaoh woke in the middle of the night and was filled with grief when he realized what had happened. "Get out of my sight," he shouted at Moses and Aaron. "Leave, take your people and go." At last, the Israelites were free. As the sun rose over the horizon, Moses led the people out of Egypt. They packed their belongings quickly, taking with them only what they could carry. Men, women, and children walked together, filled with a mixture of fear and joy. The air felt different. They were finally leaving behind the chains of slavery after so many years of suffering. As they journeyed into the wilderness, they began to rejoice and sing praises to God for their deliverance. They could hardly believe it was real. After generations of oppression, they were finally free. However, Pharaoh quickly changed his mind again. Realizing the loss of his labor force, he gathered his armies and chased after the Israelites. The Israelites looked back and saw the dust rising from the ground as the chariots approached. Panic spread among them, and they cried out to Moses in fear, "What have you done? We were better off in Egypt." Moses, filled with faith, assured them, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see how God will save you today. The Egyptians you see today will never be seen again." He raised his staff over the waters of the Red Sea, and suddenly God parted the waters, creating walls of water on both sides. The ground below was dry, allowing the Israelites to cross safely. As they moved forward in amazement, the Egyptian army followed them into the sea. But when the last Hebrew stepped onto dry land, God closed the waters over Pharaoh's army, ending the threat once and for all. The Israelites rejoiced, singing and dancing. They had witnessed God's mighty hand at work and knew He had saved them. From that day forward, Moses and the people knew that God was with them, guiding them to a new land of freedom and promise. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more stories.